Hey, what's up, guys? Jamie. Just want to real quick talk about a possible alternative. There's a anonymous witness whose name was John, who says that he saw Trayvon Martin beating up on Mr. Zimmerman, and he was able to identify them, based on the color of the kind of clothes that they were wearing, the hoodies they were wearing. And what's interesting to note about this is how does this play into the stand your ground law? And what's really important to note is that if, Mr. Zimmerman, he had, his right to go and talk to Trayvon Martin. He had, all the right in the world to go up and speak to him. Now, of course, from the, tapes that have been released thus far, it seemed like he was more angry, and it seemed like Trayvon didn't have necessarily any criminal intent as he was, walking through the neighborhood. But nonetheless, if Mr. Zimmerman had at no point touched Trayvon, had not threatened him, like saying, I'm going to come kill you, or, prepare to die, or something, drastic like that, and, move to do that, and Trayvon, hit Mr. Zimmerman first, it could very well be that there is a, self-defense claim from Mr. Zimmerman. Now, where the facts need to be, drawn out, and so that people get an understanding of stand your ground in relation to what happened and why it could be believed that Mr. Zimmerman was acting in self-defense. You have to realize that if what the facts claimed are true, if Mr. Zimmerman was on the ground on his back and getting pummeled while on the ground, that's pretty drastic. Now, the stand your ground thing is about defending yourself with deadly force if you're going to have great bodily harm, death, or forcible felony. And typically, if two people are up and standing and fighting, you kind of understand, okay, there's kind of this, you're only using self-defense, force-feeding force. But what's unique about somebody getting pummeled on the ground is that someone could reasonably believe that they're about to, endure great bodily harm, death, or some type of forcible felony. And it's not unreasonable. I know, the emotionalism of everything makes it easy to say, well, how could he, this was a 17-year-old and he knew better, stuff like that. But now, of course, I'm not assuming all the facts. We don't exactly know what happened. We don't know who touched who to begin with. But I'm just saying, assuming that Mr. Zimmerman did not threaten him, coming at him, saying, I'm going to kill you or something like that, assuming that he didn't touch him, right? Let's just say that Trayvon Martin did go and beat up on Mr. Zimmerman. And not only did he beat up on him, here's the key point where the self-defense thing, really has its big impact and import. He was supposedly, according to this witness, beating him up while he's on the ground on his back, okay? So just imagine, put yourself in Mr. Zimmerman's shoes. Is somebody who, yeah, okay, they might not be as heavy as you, but certainly not short by any means, is beating on you. Not just a couple hits and going away. According to this, it was, for a significant period of time, at least if we base it off the phone calls, at least 30-plus seconds of him being beat while on the ground. A reasonable person may think that this person is going to continue to beat them until they are enduring great bodily harm. We're talking broken bones, serious disfigurement, permanent damage, stuff like that. I mean, now, of course, I'm not saying what the facts are, this or that. At this point, as I made my previous video, it seemed, based on the facts we had from the calls, because that was hard evidence, listening to what was going on in their mindset, it seemed as if Mr. Zimmerman might be the aggressor. But as more facts come out, more witnesses come up, it could be that Trayvon did beat him up. And not only did he beat him up, he continued to beat him up while on the ground. And that shouldn't be looked at as a small thing. I know, racial issues, all this other stuff aside, you have to take a look at the hard facts. Imagine that was your grandma on the ground. Imagine that was your son. Imagine that was your sibling, okay? Somebody is beating them up on the ground with their back down. In other words, not only is somebody punching on them, but they're continuing to punch them and beat them up while laying on the ground. And that's a traditional aggravating factor when it comes to punishment. If somebody gets kicked on the ground, beat on while they're already down the ground, that's always in the criminal law context seen as something that's more severe than just two people brawling, public affray, stuff like that. You know what I mean? When somebody is beating up on somebody while they're still on the ground, and continues to do so. This isn't just a couple boom, 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 or hit you on the ground real quick to get away. We're talking, continually pummeling somebody. You can't take that lightly. And I know it's not easy to say, yeah, but that guy clearly was, out for blood, and, Trayvon, he's just 17, he was clearly had no criminal intent, he was walking home, he's just, yes, that's true, but you have to still say what happened in the moment. That's what counts as far as the law goes, and this type of protection is colorblind. I know a lot of people want to complain and say, yeah, well, if it was a black offender, he'd be arrested right there on the spot. But again, that is not the law. That you have to look at police and prosecution. How are they acting? Are they acting with improper motivations? Address it there. But the law, as it stands, would still apply to someone of any color, any race, ethnicity, whatever. You know what I mean? Your ability to defend yourself and say, I was using self-defense. If it was a white guy beating down on a black dude, that black dude, yeah, maybe the police are douchebags, racially motivated, whatever, maybe they arrest him, but you know what? That individual gets to be able to claim self-defense just like anybody else. And that's the important key thing. And the other part is, reemphasizing if he's, of course, not assuming anything, but if he was on the ground and there was no other physical stuff, no other threats of, immediate impending violence, like, Zimmerman was going to be like, I'm about to, knock the crap out of you, blah, blah, and he was getting beat on for a long period of time on the ground, this is just basing off the phone call from the neighbor, that could be objectively reasonable and subjectively reasonable if he's on the ground and he had his face was bloodied and he was completely prone. You know what I mean? So I know it's not easy to think about, but things are still coming in. We're still going to figure out what's going on. But if it was just two people standing, sure. Again, he shouldn't be using that level of force against somebody, deadly force, if they were just head to head fighting or something like that, some type of a fray. But when somebody is beating down on you on the ground, on your back, think of it. If this was your grandma, if this was your brother or your mother, whatever, you would say, yeah, they should be able to defend themselves if somebody is punching down on them. Well, my mom or grandma or sibling is on the ground and they're screaming for help, and it's not just a couple punches, but they're doing it continuously. They're not stopping. Okay, but in any case, don't let the emotionalism change great law, which is supposed to protect us. You know what I mean? It seems like Zimmerman was a little bit bloodlusty, but then again, is Trayvon, perfect? Is he an angel? Is he beyond having done something wrong? You never know. And that's the sad thing. We may never know exactly what happened, who touched who first, or this or that. But just think about that, because it's important for your understanding of why the law is important to protection and why it's important to hold police and prosecution accountable, and don't let emotionalism of a certain issue take away a self-defense that applies to everybody. You know what I mean? Remember, the police and prosecution, they could be, they could be racist, they could have ill intentions all day long, but that law protects everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. Black, white, Hispanic, doesn't matter. You get protected. So just think about that, and we'll see what happens next. All right, take care.